Oyashiro-sama だって。
Alright, we are back with some more Higurashi. Last time, we're trying to convince Rina that her father's getting scammed, and she's been arguing with us very, aggressively. And it's a pretty tough ordeal, but now it does seem like, Rina is suffering from Hinamizawa syndrome, so we're gonna need some Sumi Horoboshi magic to, talk her back into her senses. Though to be fair, I'm fairly certain she's, not as, like, far gone as she was in Sumi Horoboshi, so it shouldn't be as hard, but yeah, we're in Teichi POV, which means we're about to spit some fire, maybe? But yeah, let's just, continue. It was an unfamiliar word. Wait, I remember now. That's the name of the guardian god of Hinamizawa, worshipped at the Watanagashi festival. But why did she bring up Oyashiro-sama?
Rika-chan.
I immediately turned toward Rika-chan with an inquisitive expression, but she seemed just as surprised. She had a puzzled expression, and her eyes were open wide.
Rina も最初はお父さんの結婚には乗り気じゃなかった。でも1週間くらい前の夜、ひたひた、ペタペタって足音を立てて。
Rena's hands were lightly trembling as she held them against her chest. She looked terrified, so there was no way this was a joke. Sensing how strange it was, I changed my attitude and turned toward Rina.
なんでOyashiro-samaがレナのところに。
圭一君は知らないんだね。Oyashiro-samaは私たちのことをずっと見てる。
She got the fucking security cameras all over.
そしてHinamizawaから出て行ったり、Oyashiro-samaをちゃんと敬ったりしない人にたたって罰を与えるの。だからレナのうちもOyashiro-samaを大事にしなかったから罰が当たった。
Rena's shoulders slumped as she incoherently muttered that to herself. Her words were outlandish, bizarre. It didn't sound the least bit sane, but I kept quiet and continued listening.
お父さんとお母さんが離婚したのはレナのせいなの。
It really isn't.
Hinamizawaを出て行くとき、レナは反対した。でも結局お母さんのためだからって言われてついていったら、お父さんが不幸になっちゃった。
I guess you can technically say if they stayed in Hinamizawa, they probably wouldn't have got divorced, but can't really blame that on Rina.
本当はもっともっとお父さんの幸せを考えて頑張って反対していたら、こんなことにはならなかったはずなのに。
それがこの再婚話と関係あるのか。
終わりなんだよ。やっとお父さんは昔の傷を忘れて新しい幸せを見つけてくれた。なのにレナは最初喜べなかった。賛成できなかった。そのうちだんだんリナさんのことが疎ましくなって、見ているだけで不愉快になってきて、家を乗っ取られるかも。だったらその前に。
So she was planning on killing her, but I guess in this route for some reason that the syndrome like warped her mind and like making sure the marriage goes through instead.
なんて考えてたらまたレナのところに来たの。Oyashiro-samaが。
レナ。
The way Rina trembled as she spoke made it clear how frightened she was. Rika-chan rushed over to Rina and hugged her with her small body.
Oyashiro-sama はそんな神様じゃないのです。たとえHinamizawaを出て行っても何も悪いことをしていない人にたたるなんて、そんな神様はおかしいのですよ。だって今でも夢に時々出てくるんだもの。
Tears came spilling from Rina's eyes as she shouted that, and she was trembling with both arms clinging to her chest, acting like she couldn't even see me as she continued her story.
Oyashiro-sama は言ったの。
Oh no, red writing? Which isn't like Umineko, this is when Rena's kind of cursed.
敵意を捨てなさいって。お父さんの幸せを心から願いなさいって。だからレナはリナさんとの結婚を祝福するの。でなきゃまたたたられちゃう。 また変な色のお薬飲まされちゃう。レナの勝手な思い込みでせっかくお父さんが掴んだ幸せが壊れちゃったら、またお社様がレナのところに来ちゃう。
Can you imagine Hanyu just threatening Rena? Hey, if you don't let this marriage go through, I'm putting you back on the pills.
レナが悪い子だっていっぱい責めて、ひたひたひたひたって後ろを追いかけて、ごめんなさいごめんなさいって謝ってもずっとひたひたペタペタってついてきて。落ち着くのです、レナ。誰もいないのです。レナも悪いことをしていないからたたられることはないのです。早く早く。
She's freaking? We need... I don't know, I'm scared.
早く捨てないとお社様
She
の
might go
力が消え
crazy.
て、私はまた体を何かに乗っ取られてしまう。お社様がついてくるよ。そして早く早くと私にささやくの。どこまでもついてきて急げ急げと私をせかす。いつまでもどこまでもついてきてずっとずっと言い続けるの。本当だよ、本当だってば。なんでみんなには見えないの？私の言うことなぜ信じないの？みんなで私を騙してるんだ。みんなにも見えているはずなんだ。いややめて、もう注射は嫌。
It's a little intense.
レナ
I don't know what we can do though. Rena's haggard breathing finally began to calm down as Rina and I clung to her.
落ち着いたかレナ。
レナ、大丈夫なのですか？
Rena faintly, almost imperceptibly nodded to us. Her whole body was still trembling and covering in sweat. Even so, her look of confusion up until now was completely gone, so Rika-chan and I looked at one another and sighed in relief.
ごめんね。私、取り乱して。
いや平気だぜ。これくらいさ。
Weep. Rika-chan anxiously looked up at her, but she still didn't relax her tight grip on Rena. The sincerity in Rika-chan's expression may have gotten through to her, because Rena's face gradually began turning red.
信じてくれないかもしれないけど、レナは確かにお社様に会ったの。だからまた来た時は怖くて不安で逃げたい気持ちでわけがわからなくなって。だからもう。
わかった。
Alright, Keiichi's about to spit. Rena suddenly looked up at me in response to that verbal affirmation. I thought that maybe I had spoken too plainly. However, I can say for certain that those weren't just fleeting words. They came from the heart. Fear and anxiety, so painful that it makes you want to run away. Even I can understand how hard it is to have the courage to take a step forward.
レナが嘘をつくなんて絶対にありえないしな。
I believe that you believe that Oyashiro is chasing you. Rika does have Hanyu on speed dial, but sadly it doesn't matter. Also, she's not in the country, so
それに
taking a darn
そこまで
vacation
レナが怖
somewhere
がるっての
else.
は単なる夢とかじゃないと思う。
She was like, fuck, if this is the last fight when I'm spending it in Hawaii.
俺はその話信じるよ。お社様がそう言っ
This
た
is
の
how
は
you handle it
仕
though.
方がないさ。
And then Keiichi always comes in clutch for speeches. We've seen his magic before. He can do it again.
悪かったな。ひどいこと言ってレナを困らせて。
Also the presence of Rita, like we can somehow incorporate her being the shrine maiden, maybe,
本当にすまん。
to our advantage in this
もう
situation.
この
Right now.
話はやめにしよう。
圭一くん。
But nevertheless, we still need to stop the marriage somehow.
圭一。
Rena and Rika both gazed at me with mixed feelings. Shion's information is probably true, but the truth and the logic behind it won't necessarily make you happy. As far as Ren is concerned, Oyasho-sama's existence is an indisputable fact. In a sense, these are the basic elements that constitute Rena's sense of values and idea of justice. If that's the case, rather than denying it and forcing her own values upon her, isn't it our responsibility as her friends to help find a way to support her well-being, while still abiding by the fact as potentially true? Sure, yes. I certainly thought so. I would say the situation's a bit more dire than her well-being, because ultimately it will help her well-being in the end, but it's at the point. It's a nice balance. Don't want to totally scar her for life, which would happen if she killed them, so. Uh-oh. People. Just then I heard a loud engine sounds coming from the outside the house. The sound grew louder as it moved to the front of Rena's house and then ceased, indicating that the car had come to a stop. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong.
何かな。ごめん、ちょっと行ってくるね。
Or bing bonding. Rena wiped the tears from her puffy red eyes, then stood up and left the room. Rita-chan and I silently watched her go.
失礼します。
Hey, it's from the hint. I thought it was going to be one of the involved parties.
お荷物どちらに運びましょうか。
The firm voice of a delivery man echoed all the way up to the second floor. Rita-chan and I looked at one another as we heard it.
圭一。
分かってる。けど、
Send
これ以
it
上
back.
は
Ask
本
for
当
a
に押し付け
refund.
だ。
Stand your ground. Meep. Rita-chan sighed and slumped her shoulders. Honestly, even I didn't expect us to be so outright rejected, so I couldn't help but feel disappointed.
しかし、お社様か。本当にいるんだとしたら、余計なことをしてくれたよな。
Yeah, Hanyu, why are you harassing Rena, dude? For the memes?
お社様はそんな神様じゃないのです。人の不幸を願う神様なんて、そんなのはおかしいのですよ。
Unless you're taught to know?
だよな。でも、あのレナの怯えようは普通じゃなかった。一体何が。
I looked up at the ceiling as I muttered that to myself, and suddenly a scene emerged in my mind, flashback buff. A scene from that time, when I feared the being known as Oyasho-sama, when I no longer knew that what was right and couldn't bring myself to trust anything. And when I was devastated and tormented by that sinful mistake, the person who was kind enough to extend a precious hand to me was, no doubt about it.
そうか。
圭一。
What? How are we twitching this?
あ、ごめん。
I mean, he thought the same thing in Sumi Horoboshi, so I'm thinking he's twitching a speech right now, but
いずれにせよ、
I don't know. We'll see.
今のレナには何を言っても難しいだろう。だったら、レナを不安にさせない別の方法を考えようぜ。
Still think we can just ask Shion to get like Kasai to tell them to fuck off. I feel like that
別
would
の
work.
方法とは何ですか。
Just scare them away.
そ
Or
う
get
だな。
even get like the police to tell them to fuck off.
これから考えよ
Two valid options.
う。あいで、
What that?
リカちゃん、何するんだ。
Did she just punch me?
この無責任男。
What? I'm cooking. Ouch. Suddenly, a sigh escaped me. Oh no, Rita's going full doomer again. Right. Whenever anything goes wrong, Rita just goes full doomer. She has like she has like zero resistance to anything bad happening. I'm the fool for expecting too much of him. Does this boy still not understand how serious this situation is? Well, we gotta think. Obviously this isn't working. Isn't that only natural? Kichi doesn't know much about Oyasho-sama faith. About the Oyasho-sama faith. and even less about what personal history made Rena so terrified and deluded about Oyashiro-sama. Just the fact that he believed as much as I've told him could perhaps be called a miracle. Anyway, I'm concerned about the story about Oyashiro-sama. Indeed, among all of us, Rena's the one most conscious of Oyashiro-sama's existence. This is an absolute secret from Keiichi, but she has actually received medical counseling for it. What's more, I heard that she had problems at the school she transferred to that forced her to transfer again. Leaving the village does significantly increase the risk of worsening Hinamizawa syndrome symptoms. The trigger for that is extreme stress, doubt, anxiety, and sudden surges of hatred that increase one's mental load. Rena was originally from this village, and facing problems stemming from the divorce while moving to a new location ultimately drove her to her limits. And after that set in, she very briefly reached a stage close to L5. It was an extremely dangerous situation. The drugs she had been taking before that were simply incapable of suppressing that high level of progression. At one point, she was even given a high-risk prognosis. Nevertheless, Rena was fortunate that after she returned to Hinamizawa, she was selected to receive treatment with a new drug that Irie had just developed and received intensive care in Godora? Name-dropping Godora? Sumi horrible. No, I'm joking. Sino still makes me laugh. As a result, Rena was able to recover to such a degree that she was able to live her daily life as she does now. At the time, I discreetly snuck a glance at the report Irie made for Tokyo and found the name Oyashiro-sama written there. It said that Rena interpreted all her abnormal circumstances through a concept she heard when she was young called the curse of Oyashiro-sama, resulting from her lack of familial love. It's normal for a child of her age to settle on something or someone to push responsibility onto, but Rena didn't because she really did love her family. And because of her high degree of independence caused her to focus her thoughts on blaming herself. That's how the report summarized it. In other words, the Oyashiro-sama Rena spoke of was actually her own subconscious. In which case, there's a contradiction there. If Oyashiro-sama that Rena is so insistent on is actually a manifestation of her subconscious, would it stop her from being hostile? No, in fact, it would be the opposite. It would drive her to eliminate Rina to protect her family. In other words, it would only heighten her urge to kill. But this time, yeah, it's a little odd. I wonder if there's an explanation. Maybe it's like a mix of her flashback buffs telling her, hey, it's a bad idea from the Sumi Horoboshi experience. But this time, Oyashiro-sama is pushing her to value familial love in an inclusive way rather than exclusive. In which case, it can be derived from Rena or from her subconscious, because even Rena's subconscious mind doesn't want to accept Rina. Then, who on earth is this Oyashiro-sama that Rena claims visitor? I actually just got it. It actually is Hanyu. Wait, no, but it doesn't really make sense, but I think it's like how Hanyu communicated to Keiichi to push him forward. Maybe it's the same for Rena, but maybe she's misinterpreting the message. Because Hanyu wouldn't tell her to just be fine with it, but she's probably saying no kill, don't kill. Or it's just like what I said, the flashback buff, telling her not to kill, changing her subconscious. It's one of those two, I think.
Rika-chan?
Surprised Meep? I was so surprised to hear a sudden voice that I jumped. When I looked up, Keiichi was anxiously looking down on me.
どうした?急に考え込んだりして。
なんでもないのですよ。
Meep.
それより、これからどうしますか?
Regroup.
とりあえず、今日のところは
Yeah.
ここで引き上げよ
Cancel it for
う。
now.
これ以上だと、またレナの気分を逆なですることにもなりかね
I
ないし。
still think my ways are valid, but at the same time, maybe it's better to somehow get Rena involved too, just so we can help her, because she's obviously suffering from the symptoms right now. So, unfortunately, that's the truth. I let out a sigh full of anxiety and regret as I nodded to him.
仕方ないのです。
Get me
一
out
度
of
出
here,
直
dude.
して対策を考えましょう。
Regroup. We need a full. I don't know how to
それ
handle
に
it
して
with
も
Rena anyways.
レナのやつ遅いな。
She's pissed.
どうしたんだろ
Uh-oh. Oh, shit. I could hear loud noises coming from downstairs. It seemed like they were carrying some pretty big packages.
う。ちょっと見に行って。
Keiichi said that, but the door swung open and Rena emerged the moment he started to stand up.
遅かったな。レナ
After gazing at Rena, Keiichi and I glanced at one another. Rena looked completely hated just a little while ago, but now she had an unbelievably shocked, gloomy expression like she was on the verge of tears. What the fuck did Rina buy, dude?
おいおい、どうしたんだよ。
レナ、どうしたのですか？何かあったのですか？なんかね、家具が。
Lots of furniture.
家具家具がどうしたんだ？
Bought a fucking king-size mahogany bed.
お父さんが
Egyptian
大量に家具を
threaded
注文してたみ
mattress.
たいなの。
Shit cost 20,000.
レナ、全然知らなかった。
It was Rina though, for sure. Rena's lips were shaking and her eyes were open wide. Sensing that she was in pain, Keiichi put his hands on her shoulders and tried to cheer her up.
レナの親父さん、内緒で模様替えか何かするつもりだったんじゃないのか？ほら、サプライズのつもりでさ。
Nah, bro.
だけど、全然
This is
お
what
父さん
kind
の
of
趣味
pushed
じゃ
her
な
over
い
the
の。
edge. Rina's shit furniture style. The fucking Hawaiian hotel theme. If you think about it, that's in Sumi Horoboshi. She's like, shitty ass furniture, it's time to kill her. Well, she didn't say that, but it was kind of like that. Deep down, Rena had already made a certain assumption. Her manner of speaking made that clear.
あんな派手な家具、お父さん
That's what she's
選
really
ぶ
mad
はず
about.
ない。
What is this shitty furniture?
リカちゃん、
How bad is it, though? Keiichi and I looked at one another, then we followed Rena down the stairs. An endless supply of furniture was being hauled into the house from the delivery truck. They must not have been given a layout instruction because the furniture was just sat down in whatever space was available. Rena's house had previously been uniformly defined by a warm-colored furniture, but it was overrun by this new furniture in an instant. Pastel furniture and tropical rugs were laid out. They were all fashionable in style, the lights of which I'd only seen in TV dramas, but they seemed completely out of place in this house. It felt wrong, like the total stranger was moving into the house.
それでは失礼いたします。
After a voice coming from the entryway declared the work complete, I heard the sound of an engine starting up, with the truck gradually driving away. A sudden storm had struck Rena's house. Rena dropped down to the floor in a daze.
こんなに高そうな家具ばっかり。どうして。
レナ。
Rena immediately rose to her feet like she had just thought of something, and rushed back to the room. Keiichi and I quickly chased after her.
あった、これ。
The bank book. Rena's hands were trembling as she opened the door to her father's study. She pulled a heavy, portable safe out from underneath the pile of documents, and smoothly lined up the numbers that she knew the combination by heart. And when she opened the safe, she cried out,
何これ。
"My emergency fund." Underneath some bank books, personal seals, few stamps, and some unused postcards that are mainly bundles of freshly minted 10,000 yen bills. It was a considerably thick bundle of bills, and some narrow paper wrappers seemed to be right beside them. If the wrappers were left behind, then their contents must have already been used up. The stamp on each wrapper indicated that each bundle contained 1,000,000 yen. This was clearly far too much cash to be keeping in a personal safe at home. Everyone here seemed to be thinking that. The pile of cash was weird enough on its own, so of course Rena's hands were shaking as she opened one of the bank books stored within the portable safe. Rena stared at the bank book. I stretched my body to see what was written there, but I stopped myself. Besides, I could imagine what was there based on Rena's expression alone. Excuse me. Rena remained motionless for half a minute or so, simply gazing at the bank book. And then...
何これ
She quietly muttered that to herself, then both her arms fell limp as she slumped to the ground.
レナ
I crouched down in front of Rena and grabbed her limply opened hand. In response to that, Rena silently offered the bank book she held in her other hand. I looked inside. There were transactions of hundreds of thousands of yen withdrawn many times over a very short time frame. No, that wasn't all. A long-time certificate of deposit that was clearly intended for future use was also recently cashed out. The money was moved to the savings account.
嘘だよ嘘だよ
Okay, yeah, I actually had to, close the game to that, call I had to take. That was 20 minutes, but I'm back. We're back with, Rena fully being anti-Rina pilled. Even stronger than the Hinamizawa syndrome because her taste in furniture is so fucking trash. No, I'm just, it's obviously because of the money. I'm just memeing a bit. Rena despondently muttered that, but her words lacked the strong denial they had earlier.
なあレナ
Hey Rena, I don't think this Rina person's good. Keiichi suddenly spread out the document in front of Rena like he found something and asked her about it.
お前引っ越すのか
No, removing. Okay, that's done up. Bring Rena to her side. Rina's planning to move out with him. Rena was stunned by the document Keiichi held in his hand. On that document, I saw the logo of an Okonomiya real estate company and room information for a rental apartment. Oh yeah, she wanted the Giga apartment. I forgot about that plot line in Sumi Horoboshi. That was the big thing she wanted out of it. I could hear the cries of the Higurashi coming from off in the distance. The sunset red sky was dotted with cawing crows. The three of us silently walked forward as our long shadows stretched down the road ahead. I heard the dry sound of bicycle wheels. The sound of our footsteps was too melancholic and too uneasy. We paid a visit to the real estate agency in Okonomiya, listed on that document. The situation there was even worse than what we heard from Shion, and we found staggering new information.
ああ、間宮リスコさんの物件ですね。
Maybe this is just her property. They're not moving into it.
ええ、予約を受けたまっており
No,
ます。
no, I'm blurry on it. I'm blurry, but I remember. Yeah, she wanted this, Giga condo thing. Oh, what's her name? Yeah, it's Ritsuko, right? Yeah. I was a bit surprised to learn that Rina Mamiya wasn't her real name. It completely defied common sense to hide your real name from someone you were planning to marry. Yeah, that's a red flag if I've ever heard one before. However, Rena's complexion transformed to a deep blue and then a ghastly pale as we spoke with the agent, and Keiichi standing behind her had an intense anger, dyeing his face red. And my face probably looked just like Keiichi's. When I opened my palms, I could clearly see marks from my nails digging into my clenched fists. Rina Mamiya, or to use her real name, Ritsuko Mamiya, was planning to live with another man in that apartment. Bid T. The proof of that was another person beside Rena's father was listed on the reservation form. A name I didn't recognize that was different from Teppei Hojo's? It's not even Bid T? Double-crossed? Maybe she was planning to cut ties with Teppei after robbing the money from Rena's father? Considering that she didn't include Teppei in her plan to rob the Sumizakis, it didn't sound that unrealistic. Still, this apartment costs more than all the money from cashing out that investment, doesn't it? Keiichi brought up a valid point when he muttered that. In other words, Rina was trying to make up the difference by stealing money from the Sumizakis. Her greed was astounding, yet kinda psycho, honestly. And shameless. If not for the problems it would cause to Toko, even I'd want to murder such a despicable woman.
嘘だ。
レナ、
Saddest Usuda ever?
嘘だ。
No, that one was a little sadder. After that, we somehow managed to stop Rena's crying and then left the real estate office. Sorry, I think a blender's going on in the background. Hopefully it's not too noticeable. And on the way back, we had the misfortune of the chain on Rena's bike breaking, so we ended up walking the whole way back pushing our bikes. As if the day couldn't get any worse.
レナ、
I lined myself up beside Rena while pushing my bike and looked straight at her. She had finally stopped sobbing, but her eyes were swollen, red, and soft. Flush sheets were soaked with dirt splashed when her bike toppled.
元気出してほしいのですよ。
Cheer up, Rena. It can't possibly get any worse.
なんでかな。
After saying that, Rena stopped in her tracks. Keiichi and I stopped with our bikes about 3 steps afterwards and looked back at Rena.
レナ、お社様の言う通りにしたんだよ。リナさんのこと嫌いだったし、お父さんの再婚は大反対だったけど、お社様が嫌いになっちゃいけない、逃げちゃいけないって言うから、我慢、それで幸せになれるって信じてたんだよ。レナ、圭一君にもいっぱいひどいこと言ったんだよ。信じちゃいけないから。圭一君の言うこと信じたら、またリナさんのこと嫌いになって結婚を反対したくなるから。だから傷つけることたくさん言って。ごめんね、ごめんね。きっと許してくれないけど、もう言わないでって。なのに。
Massive tears came pouring out of Rena's eyes like rainfall, dribbling down her cheeks and into the ground below. Seeing that reminded me of what Keiichi said earlier.
レナってさ、確かに一度思い込んだら意外に頑固なところがある。っていうより、自分自身でそう思い込んでいるところがあるよな。
Ah, so that's it. She was terrified of Oyasho-sama, but she didn't think anyone would believe her if she told them. That's why she snapped and went on the defensive. And now I understood. Rena was angry and struggling with her own internal dilemma, losing control of herself. But despite that, she felt enough guilt about it to directly apologize to me and Keiichi. So...
あ、分かってたさ。
Keiichi approached Rena and stroked her head to comfort her as he said that, in a perfectly natural gesture.
あのさ、レナ。お社様、間違ってなかったと思う。ただ、それをレナが勘違いしていただけなんじゃないのか？たった今、レナが言ってたじゃないか。
That's what I was saying! Sorry, my mind's a little flushed because we had that break. But yeah, it probably is Hanyu talking to her, but she just misinterpreted her words. Don't run away, don't... No, she was saying don't kill them, you know? Don't give in to hatred, but it doesn't mean just sit by and watch.
お社様はレナに
Yeah.
嫌いになるな、逃げるなって。これ、別に親父さんの結婚を賛成しろって意味じゃないと思う。
どうしてかな、この。
嫌いになるなってのは憎むなってこと。まあ正直 俺も殺してやりたいくらいリナってやつが憎いけどさ、その存在を消したいくらい嫌いだって気持ちを強くするなってことだと俺は思う。
Boom. Double odd. Jinx? Rena and I both cried out at once, and then we stared straight at Keiichi.
逃げるなってのは多分そのまんまで問題を放置するなってことじゃないかな。本当に家族が大切なら戦え。リナに対してじゃないぞ。レナの親父さんとじっくり話し合うことも
True.
一つの戦いだしな。
That's how they solved it in Matsubayashi, right?
それが難しかったら信頼のできるやつと相談する。そういうことが言いたかったんじゃないかと俺は思うな。
圭一君。圭一。
Keiichi.
あの二人を殺すことは
Oh.
正しいことだと思ってた。でもあの二人を殺した日からもう世界はおかしくなっていたと思う。
We got the flashback buff. Let's go. It's a good sign. She finally got it.
だということはあの二人を殺すのは正しいこ
正しいかどうかは知らんが最善手じゃなかったことは確かだな。
最善手って。
そんなこともわからないのかよ。
I grabbed Rena's head and embraced her. Then I told her. I told her something so simple. It was so simple that anyone could think of it. But Rena didn't do it. I didn't do it either back then.
何かやばかったり疑いそうになったり辛いことがあったりした時はな、
It was so simple.
仲間に相談するんだよ。
そうだよね。
Buff acquired, baby! Man, this is emotional. I'm feeling it. Rena cried in my arms for a while. She cried about the wrong choice she made at the very beginning. The choice couldn't have been hard to see. I'm sure it was something that was within her grasp. How stupid it was to worry about it by herself. She had friends. She had friends whom she trusted. Why did she think she couldn't talk to her friends about it?
思い出して欲しかったの。
Telling you, she just sounds really mature.
かつてに得たかけがえのない仲間たちへの信頼を頼りたいと思うことを誰も迷惑には感じたりしない。それに気づいて欲しかった。でなければきっと後悔するから。
Up until now, I always considered my misfortune the curse of Oyashiro-sama, and so I vowed to believe and obey what Oyashiro-sama told me. But the truth was actually something else entirely. I was just blaming everything on Oyashiro-sama so I could brush off my pain. And it snowballed past the point it could be helped, so I became full of regret and resentment that ultimately destroyed me.
そうだよね。そうなんだよね。
親父さんとちゃんと向き合ってみろよレナ。黙って相手の気持ちを思いやるレナもいいけど、心の底から幸せそうに笑ってるレナが俺は大好きだぜ。
ありがとう。ありがとう、ケイチ君。ピカちゃん。
He nodded as she said that, then began sobbing again. But this time, her tears were different. They were warm.
あ、いたいた。
Mion! Only she can save us from this situation.
おーい、ケイちゃん。
When you need her, she appears. We all looked up at the voice calling out to us. Emerging from the shadows behind a distant hunt, Mion was waving her arms and turning this way.
おお、お迎えご苦労、元委員長。
ドタマいたして、今委員長殿。
Mion laughed as she gave me a very deliberate salute, and then she turned to Rina and gently placed a hand on her shoulder.
元気出して、レナ。
Did we tell Mion about the situation?
あんたにそんな顔は似合わないよ。
みーちゃん。
さて、バッチャが待ってる。
Yes, or you can save us.
ついでにご
Actually,
ちそうが山ほど待ってるよ。
ケイチくん、こ
いや、さっき帰り道の公衆電話でな。
boom.
高級旅館に1名予約よろしくって。
ついでにレナのお父さんにも連絡済み。久々に楽しく騒ごうよ。
What if we just like, we don't kill Tepe and Rina, just like torture them a little. Do a little fingernail plucking. That'll teach them to fuck off. They exchanged glances and silently nodded to each other as they said that. A feast and an overnight stay at Mion's house, so that they had this planned out from the start. I was completely taken aback by his amazing forethought. Keiichi, just how far are you willing to go to impress me? Don't worry, Rika. As soon as something bad happens, you're gonna go full doomer mode again. A smile finally emerged on Rena's face. Seeing that look of joy made it feel like all the stress of the day had washed away. Oh man, what a great chapter, dude. I always meme about Sumi Horoboshi, because I know it's a very beloved art. It's not my personal favorite from the Answer Arts. I'm more of a Mina Doroshi guy, but this whole chapter made me get me in the feels a bit. Very, very good chapter. Very, very fun art so far. But anyways, guys, we're gonna end it here. As always, thank you for watching. I feel like I'm still really sick, but this is definitely the best performance I've had in a while. So I'm gonna give it to the power of Gatorade Zero. I think it carried. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully I see you again in another future episode of Higurashi. Miotsukushi? That's what the art's called? But yeah, thanks for watching. Later.